agenda. All right. We will start with public comments. Mr. Young, come on up.
I need to push anything on this?
Just turn it on, please.
Oh, okay. All right.
And then you don't have to pull closer. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm a very concerned citizen about a number of issues facing our town, and this is one of them. And I did go over to the Fox Hill School yesterday, and I've looked at the website a little bit, and so I have some questions I'm trying to learn, but there were some things of concern. So one thing I wanted to see on the website, and I couldn't find it, maybe it's there, is a list of every appointed member, voting member of this committee. So maybe I missed it, but if someone could help me, either if it's on the website or email me that, I would appreciate it. The other thing was I was interested to have an email copy of the actual document coming from the school committee that established this committee, so I could see what they were asked to do and any other list of requirements and what's expected of the full school committee once this particular process, the feasibility study, is ended, I guess. Thank you. So the people to my left, I guess, are with the Dorr and Whittier. Is that right? Okay, good. So I remember coming to one of the other meetings, or I saw something online that talked about, you maybe had made a presentation of other projects that you had worked on. I was thinking about it today. Kind of struck me that it was all new work. Unless I'm mistaken, every one of them was new work. And I think something that should be, and I've already seen there's some numbers there about repair, but I have some thoughts about that. But I was just curious why you didn't show, and maybe you only do new work, maybe that was why. But I was curious why there was any notation or some work that was done in the recent past that was repair.
Mr. Young, is that the extent of your question? Do we want to, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
We actually do have two projects that are on the website, the Fisk and Schofield schools. They're in
Okay.
Wellesley. And I was actually PM on those jobs. There are two full repairs, elementary schools. I ran them at the same time over one summer.
Okay. So I can find Fisk, and what was the other one?
Schofield?
Schofield.
Both in
Okay.
Wellesley, and those were completed in, I want to say, the summer of 2017.
Okay. I'll take a look at that. Thank you.
Also, around the same time, there was a renovation in addition to A.R. Shirley Regional High School. It was a combination, as I mentioned, addition and renovation around the same time. And then most recently was a very heavy renovation project done in the city of Peabody. So it might be hard to filter by construction type on our website, but if you drill into the details of those particular projects, it'll probably say in there what type, whether full renovation or renovation,
Okay.
addition in combination with new construction.
Okay, thank you. I think I have
There's no
limited
filter
time,
to
so
pick by.
sorry to cut you off, but I think I have limited time, so I think you've been helpful with that. And just to be clarified, I looked on the Fox Hill website for the building, and I think, and then I saw some presentations, so you've given me some more information. Something else you might speak to at some other point, but not right now. If I'm not mistaken, the portion, if this project is approved by the town, I thought it was somewhere around $63 million, and then the feds, the state picks up 30-something million. If I'm not mistaken, the repair estimate was $65 million. I found that a little bit, curious, I guess I should say, why they were so close. So maybe some point you can talk about that. And something specific, on the Fox Hill website, building website, this was under this section, demonstrating the physical need. And as I said, I was there yesterday. I was in a number of rooms. I was in hallways. I saw the gymnasium. I saw some of the work that was done. I spoke to some people. And I happened to look up at the drop ceiling. And I even made a comment at the time that it was in good shape. Now, if I'm not mistaken, again, on that particular part of the website, there's a picture of a drop ceiling section, and it has a nice big stain on it. And quite frankly, I thought that might be a little unfair. Maintenance goes on, but I thought it was unfair. I'd be interested, I can sit back and listen to what you say, but I thought it was unfair. And kind of maybe trying to bolster your narrative, to be quite frank with you. So, be interested to hear that. My final points, I know I have limited time, and the chairman, maybe you can answer this. Has the building inspector of this town indicated at any time that you know of, or to this committee, that building will be condemned and it has to be immediately stopped functioning as Fox Hill School? The building inspector for the town of Burlington.
No.
No. And no plans to do that you know of?
Bob might know more than I that when we get inspected, but I have not heard that there's any chance that it would be condemned.
To that specific question, the building inspector has not commented on when the building will be condemned.
So you're saying he's indicating it will be condemned at some point in the very near future, today, tomorrow, next week?
He does a yearly inspection to see if
Okay.
it passes yearly inspection,
Okay,
but does not comment on the lifespan of the building.
okay. When was the last inspection?
2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
Okay, and he gave it a thumbs up, or is there a report that we can all see, can put it up on the website and I can get a copy of it? Okay,
Yeah.
let's move on. Has the fire chief come either in email or in writing or in person to this committee or to the full school committee and said that he's going to initiate actions because of safety reasons to close it down?
No.
Okay, any plans that you know of to do that?
No.
Okay, thank you. And I don't know if I have the right state board, but I'm going to say the Mass Board of Education. Has that state agency come to the school committee or the select board and said, due to the physical plant and maybe other reasons, that our certification is going to be pulled for that school? Anything of that nature?
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, I can't lean in. Mr. Young, the state doesn't certify schools in that way in Massachusetts. I will say, though, that the Massachusetts School Building Authority, which provides the funding for school construction in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, they inspect every school in the Commonwealth. And so they've looked at our buildings, and they did accept Fox Hill into their grant program. And if you stay and watch the video, you'll see the chances of getting into the grant program are very small. So the state agency that oversees school construction believes Fox Hill needs to be replaced.
So as far as I may have the wrong state entity, but what I'm asking is there any state agency that's responsible for the buildings and education, not building a new school, but there must be some other education agency in this state that, for instance, I'll give you an example where I'm heading with this. Years ago, Chelsea Public Schools went into receivership.
Yep.
Okay? So what I'm talking about is we must meet certain criteria. And are we in penalty? Have we been notified that we're we don't have a building or a program that's meeting the minimum state standards for Fox Hill School? That's my question.
No, we are not close to being in receivership from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
Okay.
But I think that has very little to do with the physical building.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll let that go for right now. But I certainly have more questions, but I'll leave it there tonight. I'd be interested in hearing more. I'll close with this. I was getting my eyes exam today down on Middlesex Turnpike at a facility, and Eastern Mountain Sports got a big sign there, closing. So, and I've said this, I think, at another meeting. This is not in a vacuum. This is not in a vacuum. They're closing that store. If I'm not mistaken, I think TD Bank North is closing a branch right down on Cambridge Street. Other big companies, Amazon, the high-tech companies, they're laying off. And right now, as I went through that building, I didn't see anything that rose to the level that says they're not getting a good education. And I have it over my phone, but I was going to read it. But there's a message on there, and I'll say anybody in this room or anybody watching right now, or we watching in the future, look at the principal's message, his welcoming message. And I don't know if the principal's here tonight, but it was a very positive message about responsibilities and trying to educate children to think on their own and think independently and work together. And so I haven't seen anything, and if someone wants to tell me that those goals will not be met this year, 2024, 2025, I'd like to hear about it. So, again, the principal's message, I know you kind of got a reaction there. I can pick it up and read it if you want to give me an extra moment.
No, Mr. Young, I think the principal's message should be positive. We're planning for, if this project is funded and moving forward and supported by the state to the tune of $30 million, that it may be the fall of 2028. So it's not going to be the building inspector comes out, condemns the building on a Friday, and we have a new school on Monday. We have to plan these things over time. But the most important instruction that happens is the instruction that happens tomorrow. We have students arriving on Wednesday. So we have to continue to make whatever facilities we have function to a high level, which we will, but the building still needs to be replaced. We're gonna maintain, we're gonna maximize the use. I think you saw offices carved into every square foot of that, every square foot into that building. But again, the building is going to need to be replaced far before it's even thought about being condemned. We wouldn't put children near a building that's going to be condemned. So
Just so there's no confusion, sorry to interrupt you.
It's all right.
I was trying to make a point. The building is serviceable. And I asked, throw anybody on the bus, Bob, about the roof. I was wondering about the roof. It's only 9 years old. I mean, is it, the newest school? Obviously not. But functionally, it seems to be working and handling what needs to be done. And so I brought these other things up because the fire chief is not concerned about the physical building. The building inspector just inspected it 2 weeks ago. So if they were concerned in any way, I'm sure they'd be letting us know. They'd be doing their due diligence. So that's my point. The building is functional, working. You just said his message should be positive. I'd like it to be positive, but it seems like, this is sort of heading in a certain direction, and so I have questions on that, but so.
Thank you, Mr. Young.
Okay.
I think we're at time.
That's fine. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I hope others in town will present other questions. And as I said, if you have other comments, I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
All right, there's no one from the public on the WebEx that I can see. The approval of the July 23rd meeting minutes is next.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? No. Mrs. Bond?
Aye.
Ms. Monaco? Mr. Wojcik?
Yes.
Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Dr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Kasha?
Abstain.
Mr. Kuna?
Yes.
Mr. Denizio?
Abstain?
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Ms. Priest?
Yes.
I didn't get anybody else on the WebEx, right? Did I miss anyone? No. Okay, I vote yes. 902. All right. Do I need to certify those to you folks as well for the MSBA? Okay. You'll let me know. All right. We have some invoices.
Madam Chair,
Yep.
I move that we approve the Doran Whittier invoice number 23 in the amount of, oh my God, $15,345. Am I reading that correctly? Sorry, old eyes. For the remaining months of schematic design.
Second.
Questions? Mrs. Bond?
Aye.
Ms. Monaco?
Aye.
Mr. Wojcik?
Yes.
Mr. Brooks?
Aye.
Dr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Kasha?
Yes.
Mr. Kuna?
Yes.
Mr. Denizio?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mrs. Priest?
Yes.
I vote yes, 11-0.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to move things
Yep.
along, improve the Cartoon EDU invoice for the amount of $3,000 for the 5-pillar MSBA informational series that we'll review tonight.
Second.
Questions? All right, Mrs. Bond?
Aye.
Ms. Monaco?
Aye.
Mr. Wojcik?
Yes.
Mr. Brooks?
Aye.
Dr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Kasha?
Yes.
Mr. Kuna?
Yes.
Mr. Denizio?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mrs. Priest?
Aye.
I'm I, 11-0. All right, Steve, I think this is you.
Yeah, just since it's been a little while since we met, it hasn't been exceedingly busy on the design front, with the exception of some PV that Danisco will update us on. But we did have a pretty pivotal meeting with MSBA, part of their project process called the Project Scope and Budget meeting or conference about a month ago. And this is when, after we've submitted the schematic design documents, we meet as a group, review the 100 lines of budget, item by item, go over ineligible costs, et cetera, et cetera. Very happy to report that all the spaces as requested are eligible, so there's been no change in classrooms or special education space that they don't feel is supportable by the grant process. So there was a vote of confidence that the building and spaces are very much aligned with their process and their views, and that's been the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education submittal, which is part of the SD submission, was also submitted to DESE and returned and approved favorably. So a lot of good news. One change, and I think that we've been consistent with since we've been part of the project, is just being forthright and open about project costs and how we have, I think, combined as a consultancy team, a lot of experience working with MSBA and understanding which way their regulations will go on certain issues. So we've been predicting project cost as early as, well over a year ago, when we were trying to formulate all the PDP options of renovation only, combinations, everything in between. So leading up to SD, we're carrying a pretty conservative and what we thought was an accurate representation of the MSBA's reimbursement rate. So that's just one thing I want to continue to be transparent about. There was a change in the reimbursement rate. They adjusted that down. Back in May, prior to all the estimates that were received and trying to get to a bottom line of the project, working with this committee, we reached out to the MSBA to get confirmation on that reimbursement rate, so we were carrying the most accurate information. And they told us the reimbursement rate was going to stay the same. So it did come as a bit of a shock that that was adjusted down about 3.5 percentage points. The net result is, if you look at again, that 100 lines of budget, at the lower section that identifies their reimbursement rate, what the estimated grant share will be from the MSBA. And so that resulting change from 50.99% of eligible cost to 47.41 was a result of about $2.3 million that the district's share increased. So that was a bit of a shock to us at the time. They make that change on an annual basis. That's why we were aware of it, and we asked how it was going to change moving forward. So they make that adjustment on a calendar basis, year by year. They look at all the towns that are in their grant program against a state average, and they make adjustments on a year-to-year basis. So that's why that happens. So that's a bit of, not the greatest news, because we're always looking at what the district's bottom line is and making decisions about that. Also, since then, we got some very favorable news. As you know, we were considering a diesel versus natural gas generator. Again, leading up to schematic design submission, understanding what the project costs are, one versus the other. In that budget, we submitted the conservative approach of carrying the more expensive option, or construction-wise, it was about $150,000 more expensive for a natural gas generator. So we carried that conservative option, but also did not reflect that the project would not be eligible for a mass save incentive with natural gas on site. So we did get confirmation through legal counsel and the building/zoning enforcement officer. Planning board has been notified, and zoning board of appeals, I think, also has been notified that diesel generator will be allowed on site without any action at town meeting. So that was very good news. So in combination of the 1.5 in eligible grants through Mass Save and the $150,000 of straight construction cost, it reduced that $2.3 million of sticker shock that we had at that meeting with MSBA down to a tune of a net gain of about $800,000. So that's a very long-winded way of saying we've had a couple of pretty big changes that did move the needle about $800,000 up on the district's local share. But as Roger, I don't know if you're annoyed with us yet about always getting constant updates of what the tax increase is going to be. It did move the needle a little bit, but not enough for us to change the upper limit of $217 on the average tax bill. So just wanted to give you a quick update on where we are budget-wise. We still have our meeting with the MSBA on August 28th to finalize their action, board action, to recommend approval into project scope and budget.
Ms. Priest had a question, and there's one online.
The number they most recently gave you is the number we're with for the rest of the project, or is there a possibility of it changing again?
That's it. Yep.
We're going to lock in a number next week, right? That's the point of that meeting, yeah.
What is the number?
Sorry?
What is the number approximately?
The
41?
total project budget is $100.484,141,000. The estimated local share is prior to state and federal incentives is $69,564,307, and then after all grants, including Mass Save, IRA, everything is $64,076,237.
Okay, that sounds good.
So that last number is about $800,000 above where we were when we were talking budget back at the end of June.
Did you say there was a hand online?
Ms. Priest addressed the question I was going to ask.
Okay. And then proceeded to change it a couple weeks ago, and they went back and said, hey, you gave us the wrong number, and MSBA said, thank you, sorry, but the number is the number. So it is what it is at this point. But I'm happy about the diesel generator, and it also includes Francis Wyman for anyone that was concerned, so we can
That's
move
great.
forward with that. Yep. any school, right? That was where we landed, is that any school is eligible for a diesel generator. All right, we can keep moving because I think we are.
Do you want to keep going?
This is the tax number? Yeah.
Yep.
You good?
Yeah, we're still 211 to 217 for the $750,000 home, right?
Yep.
Yep.
So just want to let you know, we finally got our solar study back from our consultant. I think it's been shared with the SBC. If not, we'll have it shared after the meeting. So this is just a quick summary of kind of the findings of the study. Just to let you know, we designed the roof to kind of maximize solar areas, and we shared that with our consultant, Solar Design Associates. And so they laid out actual solar panels on the roof at a certain angle, and then they did calculations based on those angles with the software they have to determine how much energy they would actually get. So we asked them to look at 3 different options for you. One is just having rooftop solar. One would be rooftop solar and canopies in the parking lot with solar panels on them. And then third option would be rooftop solar, parking canopies, as well as a battery to kind of shed some of the peak loads of the project and help out with, it's actually kind of a big cost benefit to have a battery from the utility. So I'm going to go to the next slide. So the battery is about 10 feet by 15 feet by about 7 feet tall if you wanted to go that route, and we would probably locate it adjacent to the generator in the back of the school. As it says up there, Eversource, when you have the battery, they essentially pay you money to discharge it into the grid. So they're kind of using you as a energy source. And that's actually it pays back pretty well. So it's, when we go to the next slide, you'll kind of see some of the incentives from the battery. So this is just the first option is the rooftop solar. So the blue lines are essentially your monthly energy use in kilowatt hours. So you'll see that that'll be constant for all 3 of these options. The green line and the green shaded area is the solar production. So obviously in the wintertime, there's less sun, days are shorter, you're gonna make less power, and in the summertime, you'll make more. So if you just did rooftop solar in this scenario, over the course of a year, you'll generate about 46% of your energy use, which is pretty good, actually, for just the rooftop. And then if you go to the next slide, so then if you put the canopies in the parking lot, this will obviously generate a lot more energy. This is 102% of your energy use. So as you can see, you'll still need to connect to the grid and use the grid throughout the year, but the production that you make will be more than what you use. So it'll save you a lot of money in general. And then in the next slide, you'll see with the battery, it's the same. It's just there are more cost incentives because you have the battery to discharge the grid. Can you go to the next slide? Okay. So we have 3 slides with the costs, energy costs. So let me just try to explain this. So the green is the cost you're paying up front. So it's about $600,000 for the rooftop solar panels. And you get a cost incentive from the IRA once the project's complete, which is that first inflection point on the green line as it declines. And then there's a SMART incentive, which is the Solar Massachusetts renewable targets. Those are block grants that you would be eligible for every year for 20 years. So you'd get paid something from the SMART program every year for 20 years. So that's why you see the kind of the green line declining all the way to 0 at year 20. Now the blue ski slope is the avoided utility costs. So where those 2 things intersect is where essentially where you're paid back for the cost of the system. We call it the break-even point. And so with just the rooftop, you would break even in 4.4 years. And after that, you're just making money on the avoided utility cost. So you'd save whatever that would be. So this is with the rooftop and the parking. You'll see it's a little bit different. It's a little bit longer to the payback period. It's about 8 years. But you actually will be making more money per year after that point because you're obviously generating more electricity. So you'll be avoiding more utility costs. So effectively, at year 24, you'd have earned or avoided more costs than you would have with just the rooftop. And then the next slide shows the battery. So the battery has even more benefit. It's similar to the other one. The payback period is about 7.8 years. And then because you're using the battery and the utility's paying you for that service, you'll have more avoided utility costs going forward. I don't know what the next slide is. Okay, so I have kind of a summary of the general costs. So upfront costs for rooftop, like I said, about $600,000. If you did the canopies, it's about almost $2 million, $1.9 million. And the battery is about $3 million with the rooftop and the PV on the parking lot. So there's IRA grants, that's the Inflation Reduction Act. So those you'd get as soon as the project's complete. And then the SMART incentives would be doled out over 20 years. So that's this cumulative number that you would get. And so that fourth column is the net cost. So you can kind of see the rooftop PV says it's negative, but it's only negative in the 20-year cycle, I guess you could think about it. Because you wouldn't get all of those grants from SMART at 4.4 years. You'd have to wait out till the end of the 20 years. And at the last column I just would point out is the energy savings. So once you've paid for the project, you'll be saving a lot of money after the payback period. Even with just rooftop, you'd save $75,000 a year, all the way up to $163,000 a year if you had the batteries. So, I mean, I think there's 3 good options out here to choose from. They're all would be beneficial for the town in the long term, so it's really a decision to be made by the board, which direction they'd like to go to. Are there any questions?
Dr. Conti?
Neil, does the ski slope change if the price of electricity goes up?
Yes. So right now they've assumed there is a escalation, I think, of 3%. But if it went a lot higher, you would make a lot more money. I mean, you'd avoid more.
Your payoff would be sooner.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
I also have one question. I'm more familiar with home solar, obviously, but in the first scenario, I know we had to meet a minimum target to kind of qualify for some of these, and it was way higher than 40%. Like we had to generate, I think, 90-something% of our use. Is that different for these incentives?
It's different because
Okay.
you use so much more energy in a school.
Roger?
Do the costs include any annual maintenance that the system would incur over and above not having it?
Yeah, they're assuming you're going to replace the inverters every 15 years. And the life of the solar panels is, I think, 25 years, something like that.
Right. As long as the costs are built in, the numbers, you can take them at face value. So, thanks.
Okay.
Neil, can you remind me, are any of these built into the current estimate that we had a couple slides ago?
The only thing we've built in is we've made the building solar ready. So we have conduits and pathways to get everything there. And the electrical system is designed to add in solar at some point. But no, these panels are not included in the current estimate.
Jeremy? Or somebody?
Roger got the question I was going to ask about life cycle cost.
Someone else has a hand? I can't see the list. Okay. Roger has a follow-up.
Just one more follow-up. So at what point do we need to decide to commit or not commit to pick this plan and make it happen?
I don't think it's imminent. You have to make a decision right now. You could probably even make it during construction, because construction is going to take 2 years. But ideally, you could do it after the project's totally complete. Decide, let's put on solar, do solar panels later.
Yeah, I was just thinking, considering whether construction goes on, the actual expenses, our built-in contingencies, et cetera, will either eaten away with, or, we might have, there's no such thing as leftover money, but if it came later in the project, it might be obvious that there was still money within the budget to cover this without having to wrap in extra costs. And if that point in time was convenient for construction, great.
So just on that, ideally, we know in advance of construction because there's coordination. So the roof is the roof, that's easy. That is really easy. We've already anticipated where the panels will go. If you do decide to put canopies in the parking lot, letting us know in advance so we can coordinate that work or make sure that any infrastructure that we're running under the parking lot it doesn't interfere where the canopies go and where the footings need to go. We're currently on one project, we're installing half of the parking lot as part of the project. They're getting canopies for half the project, and they're actually using ARPA funds for the other part that we can't touch, so they're coming in afterwards to do the other half of the parking lot. It gets confusing, but it became complicated because we weren't doing the work. They were, hiring someone else to do the work, and we had to do a whole bunch of additional explorations and make sure that the canopies could be supported or the infrastructure underneath the parking lot could be supported. Another project we did in Lexington, it was a PPA, the power purchase agreements that should probably also be explored just for cost comparison purposes, but they came in. They were supposed to come in while we were in construction, but it took them 2 or 3 extra years to actually follow up. But there's a lot of coordination as well that needs to go on. So the sooner you know, the more successful it is, and maybe we could even do it in conjunction with the construction. Can you imagine putting in all this brand-new parking, and then you're going to come in and rip it all up again, right? It's still doable. People do it all the time, but if we just have the anticipation of or start thinking about that would be ideal. So we work with contractors that we're not necessarily under contract with, or we could even maybe, I don't know if we could even do it as a change order to this contractor, but.
So one thing to consider is this project will need to go before a Conservation Commission. So if the canopies are done separately, that project will need to go back to Conservation. We typically go to Conservation Commission at the end of design development. So once this project is approved by town meeting in September, we'll start the design development phase, and we'll go into early spring. And at that point, we will be packaging documents to submit to Conservation. So ideally, if this is something that the committee, that the town would seriously like to consider, we may want to fold that in, just because, so you don't have to go back to Conservation again afterwards. But it's a consideration.
And probably zoning.
And zoning, oh yes.
And zoning.
Yes, special permit, potentially. Maybe not.
I'm very proactive on this.
Yeah, I mean, they're.
But it's not my money to spend, so.
Right. And the only other two things, unlike the Mass Save program where you're guaranteed, you enter into a contract with them and you get the incentives for the ground source heat pumps and also for a non-fossil fuel school, right? You get all of that money back from them. And unlike the MSBA, you're signing an agreement in a couple of weeks with them. The IRA is, the Inflation Reduction Act. So we're assuming it's still going to be in effect. It is law, or the IRA isn't, but the laws to support ground source and solar are. And same thing with the SMART. So the SMART incentives are block grants. And if anyone understands what John Denuzio probably knows better than anyone here about block grants, but there's only so much money, and so you just want to make sure you get, but we understand from Solar Design that they keep adjusting them, because this is a huge push for Massachusetts. So I just want to say, those grants are not guaranteed until you apply and actually get into the program. But, this is a great opportunity.
Historically, we've done the PPAs, right? We have other buildings with solar, and we fund those. Do they go? No.
We do have 2 buildings that are PPA, the
Okay.
high school and middle school. We don't fund them. I think Nicole can discuss the billing a little bit differently, but We're not connected our buildings to the system. We generate electricity that goes back to the grid across a meter. That meter then turns around and gives us a credit on our bill
Yeah.
that is applied towards our usage.
Yes, but you're loaning the panels, right? That's the PPA.
We don't own the panels.
We lease the space on the roof.
Yeah,
We don't own
to the
panels.
electric company. Okay, so there's no cost because there's no upfront cost, like you would if you bought the panels.
No, right.
Okay. So my question was kind of like, how have we funded these in the past? Like, is it a warrant or whatever? But it's not a infrastructure cost. It's just an agreement. So it's two separate ways to do this. Do they do PPA with the batteries and the parking lot and all that? Okay.
What we've been seeing recently is when you do the analysis between PPA and direct purchase, between the incentives that are available now, it's very quickly making it a very attractive option. In other words, a PPA becomes very favorable to the company that you're, signing the agreement, and they reap most of the benefits over the long term.
Yep.
But not to cut this discussion short, because I can tell a lot of people are interested, but we do have maybe 10 minutes before the school committee starts, and there's some other things. So I don't know if we want to just see what else is on the agenda and either keep talking about PV or review a couple of videos we have queued up as well.
Yeah, I think we can table PV till the next meeting, but I think how we move it forward and if we do take it to town meeting, like how we would fund it, I guess, and versus PPA, all those things. Is this the video? Okay.
Yeah, so I think, just before we cue it up, this is the video that was produced with Dave Cartoonan of Cartoonan EDU. Approved the invoice and contract last month or the month before, but he brings a very special expertise that I think you'll see in the videos. Just, it helps condense a lot of information, and his communications background, I think, goes a long way that helps explain everything that's happened over the past couple of years. So these are now complete and available to the public. Is there a sound?
There is sound.
There is sound.
We're not hearing
Yeah.
it, but there is sound.
Just 1 second. Do you remember which option it was? Switch audio? This one?
Lower, but yeah, okay.
Empty classrooms.
See if we can.
They're way over them. It's near Memorial.
Good. DSC at the front of that, so. Things going on.
I think you ought to send all those kids.
Yeah, we did test it.
And it worked.
But as Donna was mentioning, these are on the website. I think they've been shared through a couple of social channels, either through emails and other social media. But they are on the homepage of the website. I think we were planning on showing the full-length video, but they are in kind of digestible 2-minute chunks as the pillars that were explained earlier. So if you only have a couple of minutes or there's a particular topic that you're interested in, they are They are sorted on the homepage of the website. So I apologize for the technical issues. Guess
So-
we had a couple more minutes to talk about.
Well,
PD.
yeah, I think just as part of the whole outreach and really trying to engage people and get people excited and understand what's in front of them and what a great opportunity it is to be partnering with MSBA, the need of the school. We thought these are really great short snippets that can be shared with everyone. But as part of that, we keep saying to ourselves, okay, these are still pretty passive, right? How do we get the word out to the town meeting members? How can we even say, hey, guys, here's the presentations, take a look, that maybe you have more questions you have. Maybe these videos will ask even, answer some of the questions you have. So we're just thinking of ways and trying to brainstorm how we can not make these very passive and find ways to get the information out to the town meeting members. It's great. We've had 15, 17 people walk through the school, which has been great, and there to answer questions, which is our goal, to make sure that all questions are answered. But we're just trying to figure out how can we reach out and make that connection to town meeting members. So I don't know if anyone has any suggestions or.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Donna, I spoke to some folks at town because the May town meeting had a successful 2/3 vote for a police station, and asked about some of how they got information out, because the feasibility process, as you know, is much different, so there's a lot less detailed information. And I think that one of the techniques they used was they divided up the town meeting members amongst their building committee. And
underwent only a small addition in 2010.
anyone who had a connection made a call and sort of spoke directly to the individual. And if we divided it up, and so George, if you called 10 people, and then I'm not sure how that worked, and Steve, I'd want to make sure we weren't we were just providing information or answering questions or doing something like that, but it was, I guess it was more direct marketing. And you're mentioning passive, you need to come here to watch this, but it would be more active. I guess we would go and call, and essentially we have only about 3 to 4 weeks to
Get the word out.
to make those calls. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's something that you've
No,
done
I
before
think
in
that
other
would be great.
communities?
I think, again, these are great. Maybe we can just mute this now that because I think we're out of time. But we do encourage everyone and anyone that's listening tonight to go to the website. These are really great short snippets demonstrating the need, how MSBA, partnering with MSBA saves money and all of that. So we do encourage everyone. But we also thought these were, when the videos were being designed, they were being designed with people that really don't know much about the project. And so we were thinking that there is this would be a good opportunity to at least reach out to the town meeting members in some capacity and say, hey, if you have any more questions, please come here. There's new information, short snippets that might answer some of your questions, or if you have any other questions, we're happy to answer them. So if this was, the spring looking for debt exclusion, this would be a totally different conversation, but because we're talking to a targeted audience, and they're not as many, obviously, that may be reaching out to them, we were saying, okay, how can we reach out to them? We can post these on Facebook and other things, but making that overture to them individually, I think, might be a great opportunity.
I think a good way to do it, what I heard that was done for the police station, somebody who knows how to use Google Docs, and that's not me, or should I say it's not I, uses the spreadsheet that they had and makes it available to all of the committee members. And I think there's a space on it for comments, so if you know that, like my husband, for instance, who's a town meeting member, is going to vote in favor, then you can just write on it that, he doesn't have any questions and he's supportive. And, if each of us goes through that, and, because we all know different people. There are a lot of town meeting members I don't know, but I think everyone here knows a lot of other town meeting members. So if somebody wants to coordinate just making that document available so everybody in the group can go in and work from it, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think we've been meeting every month, at least every month for a couple of years, so everybody here understands the process that we went through, but it's easy to understand somebody from the public not having that time or, horsepower to just chug through all those meeting minutes and videos and everything. So we want to try to eliminate any excuse that the information isn't there. And so if there's a question about some of the information that is there, that's just have a question about, or something that is not there, we'd like the opportunity to at least, it has nothing to do with, a narrative. It's just simply making sure that the information is there. And if there's a question about it, we can respond to that. And so we just this late in the process, we know people are excited about what's kind of looming now, what is more kind of in the next couple of weeks to month or so. So it's kind of hard to put that same kind of pressure when we're 2 years out. So we understand it's natural. That happens on every job, that folks get more interested in knowing what's kind of looming and the implications of that. And so we want to make sure we're being as helpful as possible in making sure that information's available.
So we would be happy to work, I guess if it was with Paul or whomever, to get the list of the members. We'll put together a Google Doc. We can share it with everyone. And we just ask everyone, to take 5 of your friends that you know, or 10 of your people that you know, or however we want to share it. But again, it's just making a personal connection. Here's the information. Do you have any more questions? Or if we already know they're in support of, that's great, leave them alone, right? You've already got their check. So we're happy to do that, and we'll circulate that. That would be awesome. And I think posting it on Facebook or other social media, I don't know where we are with that, but I think we've talked about that as well. So whatever we can do, and even have David or maybe all the principals also maybe share this. It's exciting district news or something, and make sure people take a look at it. And we'll continue. I know school's opening next week, so I think we're just going to leave you all alone for about a week, and we'll pick it back up after Labor Day. People are a little more focused on other things right now, but that's great.
In addition to that, the 5 pillars that are on the website, the videos, they were really, I think after the last community meeting, we heard 5 common themes. There was a lot of discussion that night. So that's why those kind of topics were chosen. It seemed like to just shed more light on those topics in particular. But in addition to that, and the suggestion of the Google Doc, we have been in contact with Amy Warfield about hosting or just joining or being available for an informational session with town meeting members. It sounds like that's a customary thing to do leading up to town meeting. It sounds like that won't happen until after the primary election, September 3rd. So I think that's what has got the clerk's attention at this time. So we just want to make sure, after September 3rd, but before September 23rd is not a lot of time. So we're just trying to think of other ways to be a little more, a little less passive, and just making sure we're reaching out to folks.
I think we got to wrap it up. Thank you. Message received. John has a hand up.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just going to say that one more opportunity to communicate directly with each of the town meeting members is through the backup they're going to receive with their warrant. So even just a quick memo from either the school committee or the school building committee that directs people to the website and to the videos, and maybe some high-level facts would be a good idea. And we're going to need that by the middle of next week in order to get that out to folks with their warrant.
We should have a letter in all of this.
Okay, yeah, with the team.
Yeah,
has
well,
some
the team
stuff.
will work on
Yeah.
that. Yep. John, just email, I'll talk to you offline, because I think you have school committee in like a minute.
Go ahead.
I think Melissa and I were maybe in agreement that if we had a letter from the committee and everyone on the committee, sign on to the letter, that could go out with the backup, or we could send it by email. Amy Warfield could send it by email. But I think if people know that we're all in agreement on wanting this to pass, I think it will help, and a letter would be one way, and contacting people that we individually know would be another way.
Draft something and circulate it, that we maybe just do a small group.
And we should all, I think if everybody on the committee said, hey, we're on board, please help us get this passed, I think it would mean a lot.
Okay.
Just my 2 cents.
No, it's wonderful if everyone signs it.
Okay, I want to make sure we can hop to the other meeting. I see people, Bob's got people in the waiting room, so motion.
Just before
Okay.
motion to adjourn, at your seats, you'll see some handouts that have green on them. We're going to talk about that at a future event, but a lot of the people who visited, or at least several, because there weren't a lot of people who visited Fox Hill, the 325 number is still a very confusing number for folks, and so we really wanted to try to make this as basic as possible. So we're really trying to count full-size classrooms, not designating what the full-size classrooms are for in the existing Fox Hill, the new Fox Hill design, and Memorial School, which was also an MSBA project. The Memorial School MSBA project was built for roughly 500 students, and it's a, by square footage, smaller school than the Fox Hill school that's being proposed. So the enrollment number can be very confusing for people, and it's something that is, I think a lot of people had questions about. So we're looking for a way to explain it very visually and concretely, because people are using it one way or another to cling to a support or lack of support for a project, and it's from my perspective not always a very valid information point. So we just want to make sure we're getting out as concrete and simple an information as we can. So those are at your seats, and we can, with the photovoltaics, talk about them at another meeting.
Are they the same? Is it the same number of classrooms?
No, there's more classrooms, but people can look at it. But we're not counting music classrooms. We're just counting full-size classrooms, because historically, even at Memorial, we've moved the art classroom around, I think, 2 or 3 times over the life of the building, of 10-year life. So things move. So we're just looking at full-size classrooms and including that in sort of the capacity of the school. So
Which building has more, the old one or the new one?
the new Fox Hill has, I think, what, Bob, 31, and the existing one has 26, so I guess there's 5 full-size classrooms difference, but there's also offices and other half-size spaces. Again, we're talking about a 91,000 square foot building versus a 64,000 square foot building, so, but those numbers are very abstract for people walking around to school. So we're, again, the handouts are, we're trying to use colors, we're trying to actually show classrooms, and like I said, we need more time to discuss it. I just want to make sure the logic of our trying to present this information makes sense to you all, and if we can convince you all, then I'm hoping that we can then incorporate this conversation into the town meeting presentation, because I have no doubt the 325 number is going to come up and be a question. And as I tried to tell someone, if we move the building 200 yards over the Wilmington line, the capacity jumps from 325 to 414 just by moving the building into a different community, because MSBA changed their standard from 23, which is what they use for the entire Commonwealth, to 18 for Burlington. So for 414, Vivian, Donna, Neil, you wouldn't have designed a different building at all. So again, it's an arbitrary number, but we just all have to agree how to explain it.
But we're not putting 23 kids in a classroom at the new Fox Hill. Correct.
No, but the design of the building wouldn't change. So all I'm saying is capacity is one of those things that we just need to make sure we can explain clearly to people. But again, every other town in the Commonwealth, mostly, a modern building with the programming that MSBA and the Department of Ed would support, this building would easily fit 414 kids. So we wouldn't do that in Burlington, but again, it's a way to talk about capacity, and that's, I think, going to be something that we all need to agree on and talk about.
Ms. Priest?
Just quickly, before we come back to look at it, I know that the current Fox Hill map has like an explanation of what things are. Memorial does, but isn't there 2 classroom spaces in the modulars that the lab uses that aren't flagged? And then where would the DSP and lab space be in the new building? Are you counting those as regular classrooms, or are they being separated?
We're just counting full-size classrooms that are...
So the modular space doesn't count as full-size classrooms? No? Okay. I just
Well,
wasn't sure.
they're smaller and they're already at the end of their useful life, so it's not brick and mortar, and even like MSBA doesn't recognize those. They're portable, right? They're portables.
Okay, yeah, I was just trying to understand the space
no,
and what was
agreed,
being highlighted,
agreed.
that's
Yeah.
all.
Just so we're not talking about what programs are going into them, because as Dr. Conti was saying, over time, programs shift. Even in Memorial, there was the lab, one of the lab programs is there, that those numbers have shifted over the years, so the spaces have had to be flexible. Art's gone into different, art on a cart, music on a cart to accommodate enrollment. So really, when you look at capacity, what we're just showing is full-size classrooms, regardless of use.
I think what triggered the question is because Memorial is marked at 29 full-size classrooms, and you guys don't have the lab pre-K classroom highlighted. That's why I would thought you guys were delineating them differently.
The lab pre-K classroom, I think, is larger. It's a
the
different
standard?
size, and it's
Okay.
larger. Yeah, I think
Right.
there's a toilet in there as well. Yeah.
If I could just add 2 comments through the chair. So I think there's plenty of discussion to figure out what we define as a full-size classroom. This is why this is being presented, and we'll have to discuss further. The biggest takeaway from me is something that was 900 square feet and met the same standard across all, so whether it had a sink in it and so forth. If we look at the lab spaces that are in the portable, they're not 900 square feet and they don't have sinks in them. So if we wanted to compare any of the larger space, we're not comparing the gyms, we're not comparing the libraries, those are taken out. They are teaching spaces, but they're not full-size classrooms, right? So we have smaller spaces, again, that don't define a classroom, but that's something that we can discuss future-wise.
definitely can discuss
Just trying to keep
future-wise.
some consistency as to what we're calling a classroom, that's what's presented here.
Yep, I understand that. The way it was looking at it, it looked like those spaces weren't clearly marked, and I just wanted to make sure it was
Yeah, we've
digestible for
updated.
people.
Yeah, we've also cleaned it up a little bit, so anyway, but we really, we want your input, because if you can't understand what we're trying to do, can you imagine trying to share this with others? So that's great. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Any more concerns, questions? Good.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.